Welcome to this presentation as we continue to delve into Part 2 of Diagnostic Tools. This week, the HR and political frame are added to your view of the organization, and you took the assessment to see which frame or frames you prefer. As you consider your assessment results related to the structural, human resource, political, and symbolic frames, here are several questions to consider to take you deeper in your reflection. Feel free to pause the video in between if you need to. Which one or two of the frames do you favor? And which frame do you least prefer? As you consider other assessments you have taken, why do you think you have these preferences? Consider the implications these preferences have as you assess and diagnose organizations. What do these preferences bring to your leadership of organizational health? What blind spot do you need to be careful of? What are your next steps with this information? Please consider that your preferences may have a key impact on your view of the organization. You may tend to see the organization mostly through the frame that you prefer. When there is a problem, you will likely try to solve it with that frame in mind. You may then be blindsided by behaviors in others that represent the other frames. For example, I favor the political frame and the symbolic frame, yet I also have preference for the HR frame because I do tend to see the organization as all about people. My strength of strategic contributes to the political frame by helping me see the more efficient path forward in the midst of chaos. Also, my networking strength of woo, which is winning others over, supports developing collaborative relationships along the way. Because of my preferences for the symbolic frame and my strength of futuristic, I am more likely to use vision and inspiration to invite people to move forward. At the same time, I least prefer the structural frame, so I can get blindsided by the level of detail or processing some people need in order to move forward. I have to continue to work on being patient with others in their need for more facts, specifics, and time to deliberate decisions. The point is your frame preferences cause you to focus in a certain direction and potentially miss a larger picture. Please keep your framing preferences in mind as you consider your strengths in diagnosing organizations and leading them toward health. Yet also keep an eye on your blind spots. Human resource leaders emphasize the importance of people. They desire to find a good fit between people and organizations. 3 things need to happen for people to feel they are in a good fit. They need to feel valued, that their work is valuable, and that the organization makes sense to them. One way in which a leader can represent the HR frame well is by asking people these 3 questions. What do you need to feel valued as an employee? Some examples of feeling valued may include needing respect, good feedback, or a sense of belonging or empowerment. The next question to consider is this: what contributes to you experiencing your work as engaging and important? Examples can include a good job fit, opportunities for growth, or a perceived future. The last key question leaders need to check into is this one: what will help you make sense of this organization? A few examples include consistent values, clear expectations, an environment of trust, or even a helpful boss. Leaders take the HR frame into account by making sure people feel valued, engaged in their work, and that the organization makes sense to them. It is possible to use these 3 questions with individuals or even with groups by having them develop a list of suggestions in each of the 3 key areas. Then have each person select their top 3 to 5 total from the entire list. A great way to follow up as a leader is to say something like, what is one step that I can take to help you experience more of these from me? Please give me one step to focus on over the next few months that will help me move toward you in a positive way. Whether you have formal or informal authority with people around you, moving towards others in this way helps them to feel noticed and valued, especially if you take the next several months to act upon and reinforce that one key step. This can also be a valuable exercise to do one-to-one with an employee or even with your supervisor. In order to be a good follower and lead up well with your supervisor, you could also find out what he or she needs, as well as let him or her know what you are needing to take your work to the next level. For example, you could ask your supervisor something like this: "What can I do to help you feel valued as my supervisor? What can I do to help your work become more engaging and important?" Then another option would be to offer your supervisor a step he or she could take toward you in one of the three key areas. For example, if you would feel more valued by regular meetings with your supervisor, you could ask for a half hour of his or her time to communicate well on a weekly basis. These are some practical examples of how leaders can use the HR frame. Whatever practical steps you take, HR frame leaders see the value in finding a good connection between the organization and the people that make it up. What is your next step with the HR frame? If I say corporate politics, what words come to mind? For most of us, we feel something negative when we think of politics. Since we more than likely experience politics as harmful, we tend to avoid it or disengage from it. Yet leaders who are savvy in the political frame recognize a need to wisely engage in organizational politics. The political frame involves making decisions and allocating resources within a context of limited resources and differing interests. Leading within this frame is challenging when coalitions form around divergent interests and then polarize. If this continues, individuals, groups, and even the entire organization can get stuck. The root issues of politics gone awry is pride, selfishness, ego, and downright sin. The goal of this week is to recognize the importance of the political frame and that politics is neither moral or immoral. It's vital to see politics as important, beneficial, and something that leaders need to engage in. So let's consider the best way to go about leading with the political frame in mind. When we engage in organizational politics, it's vital that we consistently check our motive and our ego. Are we trying to push our own agenda and trying to get our selfish needs met? This is exactly what causes a negative experience of politics. Are we looking out for the divergent interests of the group? This can actually offer people a more positive experience of politics. Or are we bouncing somewhere in between these two? This may actually be confusing to people. Philippians 2 encourages principled leaders to look out not only for their own interests, but the greater interests of others as well. Engaging in politics for the greater good means that we use our power well. Power can be used as either a direct force or as influence. Principled leaders try to use direct force only during times of crisis, when there is a need to react quickly. More often, it is best to use vision, inspiration, invitation, or hard truths spoken with respect to request people to move forward. Mark 10, verses 35 to 45 is an example of how Jesus did this. Please study how he invited his team to overcome pride, positioning, and ego. Two of Jesus' leaders asked for positions of honor. They were so full of ego that they thought they could do everything Jesus could do. Jesus pointed out that they really didn't have a clue what they were asking, and their pride had blinded them. Jesus humbly turned over the right to promote people to God, his Father. He tried once again to model and reinforce humility to his team. When the rest of the group heard what the two had done, The Bible says they were indignant. Why do you think that was? It was likely because the 2 disciples had gotten to Jesus first. In other words, the other 10 likely wanted positions of honor as well. So Jesus shared vision to inspire and invite the group to be humble and use their power well. He said, "Whoever wants to be the greatest must be the greatest servant to others." Serving others in the name of Christ has the power to change the realm of politics and move an initiative forward for the good of the whole group. What is your next step with the political frame? I pray for God to guide you and be with you as you invest in your leadership and organization through both the HR and political frame. Thank you for being part of this presentation.